There you go. There's Greg.
Jibbity job.
Jibbity job. Episode 14, Demons Within.
Episode 14. How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing.
You're doing.
I'm doing today.
Doing. Nike, just do it. Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. You know, the Giants, they lost 40-0 on Sunday Night Football. It was so bad that it was so bad that it's like beyond. It transcends me being even depressed or mad over it.
Yeah.
It was just one of the worst things I've ever seen. And the sick part of being a Giants fan is I'm just saying, that's okay. They'll recover.
Yeah.
I think back to the 2007 Super Bowl season. They started off 0-2 and they got absolutely demolished by the Packers and the Cowboys. So I'm telling myself, I'm rationalizing.
There's still some hope.
Yeah, I'm rationalizing, but
my dad has no hope in the Giants right now.
Yeah, I feel like your dad's never had hope in the Giants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a sad state of affairs all around.
Yeah.
And then even the Jets, Aaron Rodgers got hurt on the first series and he's out for the season. That. I think he's got an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He still gets paid too.
Oh yeah. He still gets paid everything.
Like $100 million, right?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah. It's one of the best jobs to have.
Jibbity job.
Jibbity job and a jobby jiffin.
So today we're talking about the book.
Yes.
That Greg wrote called Demons Within.
Demons Within. It comes out. Today is Sunday, September 17th, and the book comes out on Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
It will be available on Amazon exclusively in hardcover, paperback, and ebook formats. And then I believe eventually, it'll be available in other outlets. So stay tuned. But just go to Amazon and get it. Just go to Amazon and get it.
So I'm going to ask Greg a few questions here.
Yeah, this episode's just going to basically be about the book. We did do our first episode ever was about the book, but we were still fresh. We were a little unpolished.
Yeah,
we were rookies to the podcasting game, and there's a lot to talk about. I'm very excited. So yeah, let's just jump right into it.
Yes, let's do it. Summarize the book for me, Greg.
So the book is a story about this guy named Bill Dillard, who is an alcoholic. He's 55 years old. He's a retired homicide detective. And his alcoholism basically ruined his life. It ruined his marriage. It ruined and strained his relationship with his daughter. It basically left him completely isolated. He's got like a shitty apartment in downtown Albany.
Yeah.
And he's just a lonely man. And then what ends up happening is his ex-wife is found brutally murdered. And the murder fits the MO of a serial killer that's sort of stalking the capital region of Albany. And he commits these murders that are very like ritualistic in nature, almost like satanic to a degree. Yep. So Bill's thrust into the investigation. And through the course of the novel, not only does he have to, try to help solve this murder, but he's got to deal with his own psychological demons and alcoholism and all that crap. So it is really a story. It's like a character study about alcoholism and the demons of alcoholism, but it is told through the lens of a crime thriller.
Why'd you write the book?
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always wanted to be an author. And this story kind of just came to me. When I was at St. Christopher's, I was told that I had a talent for writing. And I was told I should write a book or try to by an author who ran this voluntary creative writing program at St. Christopher's. But I was just like, nah, it's such a daunting task to think about. It's like you literally are writing hundreds of pages and thousands of words. And I just thought it was insane. But he framed it in the way people frame recovery from alcohol or addiction or anything. It's where you take it one day at a time. You can't, like for drinking, if you sit there and visualize never drinking again, especially when you're in early recovery,
it's daunting.
For the rest of your life, it's such a monumental task. So that's why they break it down to one day at a time, or even further, you break it down to one moment at a time.
Yep.
So that's what he said. He's like, just every day, just write. You might write 3 sentences, you might write 3,000 words, but you just stay consistent and you look at it like that. And that's what I did. And I wrote the book, A, because I always wanted to. I always wanted to be a writer, and B, the idea came to me. And I believe it's my purpose. And I believe that now I'm finally getting out of my own way. I can finally do what was meant to do and was meant to contribute to society. and that's to entertain. It's an entertaining book, but it's a dark book too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a very accurate depiction of alcoholism and addiction because I went through it.
Yeah.
And I've heard hundreds, if not thousands, of stories of other people who went through it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to entertain, I wanted to educate, and I wanted to, you know, spread a message of hope to a degree. Yeah.
So describe your process. Did you wake up, jump out of bed, drink a cup of Joe, and get right to it?
That's honestly exactly what I did. I mean, at the time when I actually got the idea when I was on vacation in Florida. I was on a vacation to Universal Studios, and the image of the prologue in the first chapter just came to my brain. So I started taking notes because I couldn't do anything. I was at Universal. I didn't have my laptop. And by the time the trip ended, I had like my note document in my phone was so long that it was like unwieldy. I had to copy and paste it and email it to myself so I could structure it. So yeah, that was the writing process. I was working at the time too. I had a part-time job, and I was still in school. I was getting a degree in networking and cybersecurity. So I would wake up before work. I'd have to be at work at 8 a.m. and I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I would get a cup of Joe. I'd grab my vape. I'd put on my Beats headphones. We're not sponsored by Beats, but I'd put on my headphones and I would put on a movie soundtrack playlist, and I would just write.
A movie soundtrack playlist?
Yeah, I actually.
Which movies, Greg?
It had like Lord of the Rings. It had Rudy. It had Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It had, and then a bunch of
what? Jurassic Park?
Last of the Mohicans, which actually gets a shout out in the book.
So you can listen to music and write at the same time?
Well,
that's difficult.
That was why I had movie soundtracks, because there's no lyrics. It's just like the orchestra and the band and like and it definitely helped with my writing. Like, especially like for some scenes in the book, when I would get to a part that might have been like a dramatic part, I would throw on a Lord of the Rings scene. Like, there's one scene called one song called "The Breaking of the Fellowship."
Yeah,
bro, that song brings tears to my eyes to this day. And so that's what I would do, and I would just write. I would drink coffee, I would vape, and I would write. And then a lot of times too. So I was most productive in the morning. So in the morning, I would do the writing of sort of new material. You know, I would write more of the story. And then in the afternoon or at night, when I'm laying in bed, in the afternoon, and then I would edit. I would sort of go back and make sure things were good. And then at night, when I was laying in bed, that's when I would take notes for ideas that would come to me.
Yep.
And that was basically the process. And this is TMI segment, but so when I would get a good idea, I would get a dopamine hit in my brain, and I would get so stimulated, I would have to run and take a shit. Yo, it was crazy. It reminds me of like back in the day, like especially people who have like, you know, drug issues.
Yeah.
Sometimes when they would finally score their drugs, they'd have to go take a shit before they even did them. Because it was a natural high. Like, there's one particular part in chapter 9 and 10 where a significant thing happens to one of the characters, and I couldn't figure out how to have it make sense.
Yeah.
And I would like pace around in circles in my living room thinking about how is this going to work in a believable way.
Yeah. And
when it finally came to me, bro, I had like diarrhea for a week. It was great. So that's TMI segment over.
Okay. Well, what about the characters? Tell me how you got Bill Dillard.
So Billy Dillard, the name is just, I don't know. I just think it's a funny name. But the name Bill is sort of a homage to Bill Wilson, the founder of AA. But yeah, he's a real piece of work. He's an asshole. He's just full of all the traits that people in active alcoholism have, which is self-pity, isolation, anger, and resentment. But he just drank. He just drinks. He does coke. He does those things. But the character himself is like his mannerisms. I spoke about this on the last episode, but he's really based on this guy from St. Christopher's who was the same age as him, same look, same attitude, just a hardened man. But Bill, though, his thoughts are very much inspired by me. So I wanted to be able to express the thoughts of alcoholics and active alcoholism. And that's basically what he is. So throughout the book, you do have a look inside his head. Like you can see his thoughts.
Yep.
And he's the only character whose thoughts you can see. But yeah, so he is, like I said earlier, he's a 55-year-old retired investigator, homicide investigator, who's thrust into the serial murder investigation. And the whole time, it's like his demons within him parallel the demons of the murderer. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, he's just like, at the beginning, he's just a huge piece of shit. And like, I wanted to convey that. And you sort of see his spiral towards rock bottom, and then you kind of see, if he can claw his way out.
Yeah. Is he your favorite character? Who's your favorite character?
So he's not my favorite character, though. So he has some of my favorite lines in the book. Because I do think, despite his shortcomings, like sometimes he is funny. Like he'll say some shit that's just like that I would say.
Yeah.
But actually, there's this character who's a main character. Her name's Claire Davies. She's a new detective. She's a homicide detective. She's 23 years old. And she actually, by the end of the writing process, became my favorite character.
Yeah. Because
she's like young, she's naive, but she has this inner strength to her where you wouldn't assume it, because she is like very nice and like energetic and just wants to do a good job. But she stands up for herself,
Yeah.
I would consider her a strong character, and she just wants to solve the investigation, and she just wants to make sure, she wants to prove herself.
Yeah.
Because there is a little bit of nepotism. Her father is actually the captain of the crime unit, the major crime unit for the state police in New York. So, Bill's skeptical of her. Bill has a very strained relationship with the captain. But she's just got this great personality. She's funny, she's smart, and she works her ass off.
Yep.
And she doesn't give up. She goes through some shit, as you'll see, and she just does not give up. So by the end of the book, she was my favorite character.
That was a good synopsis, Greg.
Yeah. I mean, and it was tough. I wasn't like, I had to write her like she's a girl, obviously. And I don't know how girls think.
No man does.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest mysteries of life. What goes on in there? So she was kind of hard to write, I would say, because I wanted it to be accurate to like how a woman would behave in a male dominated world of law enforcement. But I think I did a good job, and I do think she's just the most endearing character. She's awesome.
Yeah. Switch it up a little bit here. What are the themes of the book?
So one of the themes, I mean, there's a lot of themes, but I think the main theme is man versus self, which is a common theme. And it's just the main character of Bill, like his greatest enemy is himself.
It's a lot of people's greatest enemy.
Yeah, it was my enemy for the longest time.
Agreed.
And that's like what I was saying. It's like I always got in my own way. I was the only reason I never wrote a book before this book. I was the only reason I had failed relationships. I'm the only reason I've lost jobs. I'm the only reason I've lost friends. And that's kind of what Bill is going through with that. So that's I would consider that the main theme. It's man versus self. And because it's in the lens of a crime thriller, it's like, it's also, the primary antagonist of the book. You would assume it's the serial murderer who they're trying to catch. But in my honest opinion, Bill is both the protagonist and the antagonist because he needs to figure that shit out. And that's, you'll see when you read it. Is he going to succeed at that, or is it going to end in tragedy?
Yeah.
The other theme, I would say, it really is a portrait of addiction. I don't know if that's actually a literary theme, but I'm considering it one. It's just an accurate portrait of addiction. It depicts it in the way that most people experience it. And it depicts it through the lens of a crime thriller. So it's an entertaining depiction, but it also was eye-opening. Like I said in last week's episode, where I had to give the disclaimer that it's not an autobiography. Yeah. Like one of my closest family members, who supports me through and through, she told me it was like difficult to read because she didn't know that. She thought it was sort of me just explaining my actual experiences, but through the lens of a fictional novel. So she was, she said it was hard to get through, and she was really happy to hear that it's not like me retelling my situation. But like I always often say, I don't want to minimize the things I did, because I still did a lot of bad stuff. I would say though, like Bill does some fucked up stuff. Like I mean, there's like breaking and entering, there's violence. Like I've never actually assaulted somebody physically while just drunk, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I've been in fights, but most of them, like I might have started the fight by like talking shit, but I never really just like assaulted somebody. I would get very aggressive though.
Yeah.
And people would be on edge thinking I
Yeah.
was gonna, but like Bill does that. I don't want to give too much away, but like, I mean, and even like there's some domestic violence to a degree, but it, you know, Bill gets punched in the face. And then, you know, he retaliates with, choking essentially.
Yeah.
But like, I never did that. But still, like I said, I've never want to minimize what I actually did because I hurt a lot of people, caused a lot of pain. I just didn't do the things Bill does.
Yeah.
But everything Bill does are stories that I heard.
Yeah.
There's stories I've heard in AA. There's stories I heard at St. Christopher's. There's stories I've heard just chatting with some of my other friends in recovery. And they're all things that if I didn't get my shit in check, I could have probably been capable of some of those things.
That's good.
And then I would say, I mean, there's a lot of themes, but I would say that religion and spirituality is a theme.
Mm-hmm.
Bill has spiritual encounters. Bill learns to find spirituality. He has this on a turning point, a groundbreaking moment in the middle of the book. There's a lot of spirituality. There's a lot of talk about God. I mean, Bill goes to a church at one point early on. He doesn't know why he goes. He just gets like this compulsion to go in a church, and he has this, you know, a religious moment that I don't know if it doesn't really turn out the way that, you know, he probably would have liked, but like, so that's a big theme too. And especially, well, St. Christopher's is a location in the book, and that's, you know, they accept all denominations. They don't care what your religion is. They'll help you, but it is a religious institution. It's run by friars and nuns. So crazy. So yeah, that's another one of the major themes. But I would say those three are the main ones, and then there's other ones. You know, it's got a lot of the common themes in fiction.
So I guess the next question I would ask is maybe give a little bit of a teaser on your favorite chapter that you like.
Yeah. So my favorite, I have two chapters that are my favorite. I do really like every chapter. Like, there's not a chapter that I thought was difficult to write because I genuinely liked every chapter. And I think it has good momentum. Like, it starts off with a bang, and then there's some character development, and then things get crazy. But chapter 8, I don't even know how to cheese it. I don't know. I'm hungry. I need some cheese. I need Cheez-Its. But chapter 8 is sort of a turning point. It's a crucial moment in the book, and a crucial moment for Bill. And I think there's just so much wisdom in that chapter. It's a long chapter. A lot of my every chapter, it's got like page breaks in it.
Yep.
So it'll be, you know, a couple pages, and there's like a dash, meaning time's passed in some way. But that chapter, it's just nonstop.
Okay.
It's nonstop. And it just has wisdom that I've learned from all sorts of people and places, you know, like things I've learned from reading, things I've learned from church, things I've learned from AA. And it just sort of puts them all together in like a profound way. And I think the chapter A, it's a turning point, and B, I think it can help people. Like, I remember when you read chapter 8, and you said like, that helped me.
Yeah, it did.
You know, and I know that even like my mom, who's got her shit together, she said there's ideas in that chapter that she loved and would like to utilize. One of our lights just turned out. So then I love the last chapter because I think it resolves everything in a pretty good way, but I also like chapter 12.
Yep.
Chapter 12 features two characters that I'm not even going to name that are very quirky and interesting. And there's just
I like them.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sort of answers are divulged. Yeah. But you also don't know if they're actual legitimate answers because there is an ambiguous supernatural element to the whole story that I never really say if it's, you know, it's up to reader interpretation. I have my thoughts that I probably will never share. Maybe I will, but not now, not pre-book release. But there's a lot of answers, and I did so much research for that chapter into like astrology and mental health throughout history and how addiction was perceived back in like the Middle Ages as to like what people thought, because back in the day, in like hundreds of years ago, people who had mental illnesses or addictions, they literally thought they were possessed by demonic entities. Like people with epilepsy when they would have seizures, they thought they were having demonic fits.
Really?
And like the way that they would treat these would be like they would like bring them to like churches or religious places and have priests like pray for them.
Yeah.
Or they were just cast out of society. They were just cast out like lepers who also were cast out. So that chapter I did so much research for, and the way it tied together was pretty cool too. Because there were a lot of things that were I don't believe in coincidences, but there were things in that chapter that I was trying to tie together, and then I would find something that was just an absolute coincidence that made it fit perfectly.
Yeah.
Like there's a significant date in the book in chapter 12 that gives some answers as to why this killer's doing these things at the time he's doing them, and it just turned out, and it's a legitimate event that happened in real life.
Yeah. And
this date just happened to be my sobriety date.
No shit.
Yeah, it just happened to be my sobriety date, so I couldn't believe it.
Demons Within, September 19th. Tell us about, do you have any future writing plans? I know you've told me, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas, and I started writing my second book. I actually started writing a few, just to see which one takes hold, because I have a few ideas. The ones I haven't written yet, I don't want to say in case someone steals my idea.
Yep.
All right, so the one that I'm writing now, that's going to be my second book, I don't have a title yet, but it is about the aftermath of a gamma ray burst that hit Earth, a devastating gamma ray burst that hit Earth, and it essentially sends Earth into like this chaotic post-apocalyptic world to a degree, and it follows a guy who just survives. He just has to survive, and all these things happen. Like he's also like pretty much every book I'm going to write going to have something that ties into alcoholism or mental illness.
Okay.
So he encounters all these people. I'm still sort of figuring out the main plot point as far as, you know, what the journey is. Like what's the main event? What's the big mystery or whatever it is. But what I do know is I did a lot of research on gamma ray bursts, and basically this one, it was close enough. It was far enough away that it didn't just kill all of Earth, but it was close enough that the half of Earth that was in the direct path of the gamma ray burst, it sterilized all life instantly.
It's like no more babies.
Nobody on that side of the Earth can ever have babies again. So you're talking 4 billion people. So that alone creates pandemonium. It also like knocked out electrical grids. It just devastated humanity. It killed a lot of things. It did kill a lot of people too. So that's sort of the basis, the setting of it. It takes place in upstate New York, like like all my books probably will. But the guy, he lives with his dog Lila, and
shout out to Lila,
based on Peter's dog. But he lives in the Adirondacks in the wilderness, and he encounters this child, and it's basically him and the child, and they have to go on this journey. And that's basically it. So I'm really, you know, I'm still hammering out the details, like I said, but that's sort of the crux of the book, and I'm just excited to write it. I'm feeling, you know, after I finished Demons Within, I finished it in April, the end of April. It's just been sort of nonstop, making connections, doing the social medias, building promotion, making the podcast, all the content. So it's nice to finally be back to writing, and I'm starting to feel the fire come back. Because like I said to you, like the happiest I've been in my entire life ever, before my alcoholism started, before any of my issues started, still the happiest and most content and passionate I've been was when the 3.5 months I was writing Demons Within. Yeah. So, you know, the past month I've had some issues, as you know. Yeah. I've been having some struggles. You know, I'm through it, but that's what I think I was missing. I just should never stop writing for the rest of my life. And I'm excited. So I think that's it for today. I mean, we said it's going to just be a short episode just about the book, and I'm excited for everyone to read it. Just go out there and buy it, support us, and just know you won't be sorry. It's a good book. It's a dark book. It's an entertaining book. So yeah, it's out. In 2 days. Yes. So we will have the link, and I'm excited for people to read it. And I'm excited to get people's feedback. Even if you hate the book, let me know. Let me know. And that's it. So that is it. You all is. Thank you for supporting us.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Ciao.